Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to Vermontitude.com, Reformer.com, Brattleboro.tv, and locally on Comcast Channel 1078. We come to you from our studios at the Innovation Box on Landmark Hill. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I cover the topics that are of concern to Windham County and the towns that reside within its borders. Joining us on the program today, Meg Staloff, who is the program manager for Southern Vermont Economic Project. And today we're talking about the Southern Vermont Economy Summit. Welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
All right. So this whole thing is happening Tuesday, May 20th, which is just a few weeks away. What's this year's theme?
So the theme for this year's summit is Adapt and Thrive, and it came out of the work we did over last year on regional economic development strategies. And the big theme that arose from all our work was this need to adapt so that we can continue to grow our economy and have thriving communities in Southern Vermont.
Okay. So when we talk about adapting, are we talking about a retail thing? Are we talking about the building industry? Are we talking about it all?
We're talking about it all. So when we do economic development planning, we're not just talking about businesses. We're talking about businesses, of course, but we're also talking about communities, what builds resilient communities that people want to live in, how we're supporting our population. So it's about people, it's about business, it's about community, really everything. And that's what the summit does. It brings together people working on anything related to Southern Vermont being a thriving place to be, live, and do business.
So one of the interesting, and I've been sort of involved in this in some capacity since the first year. This is what, are we coming up around 10? How many times have you guys done this? Sorry, little side question.
Sure. This is the 8th annual summit, and the first one was in 2017.
Right.
If you do the math, you'll realize that's actually 9 iterations, but then there was 2020 where we didn't have it. So
we couldn't have anything nice.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So 8 years running, the summit has kind of you come in, you grab your cup of coffee, you sit down, somebody speaks at you, they set the whole day up, and then there are these breakout sessions throughout the day, which are, I find, are some of the more of the information. They're smaller groups. It allows you to kind of focus. Do you know what some of those breakout groups are this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we start with that big picture, and then we try to break it down around our theme and into sort of different tracks. So this year, the tracks really relate to this regional economic development plan, and where we talk about people and population, we talk about businesses, we talk about communities, and we talk about our ability to bring it all together and work together. So for example, we have everything from a broad picture, like what is your local economy? What is that made up of? Type of breakouts that are going to be really high, kind of 30,000 feet up, down to, for example, a workshop on building effective multi-generational teams.
Right.
So they really go from small to big. We'll be talking about climate resilience projects in communities, driven by communities, thinking about how they want their community to look in the future. We'll be talking about a more diversified approach to tourism, so really supporting the way that tourism assets support our communities and vice versa. There's just really a lot. We have workforce things like thinking about how to become an employer of choice. Even if you're a small business, how do you support your workforce? Really important themes and really varied.
Okay. All right. So, it's Adapt or Thrive is this year's theme. We should take a moment to tell folks where it is. It's up at the Mount Snow Grand Summit.
Correct. It's at the Mount Snow Grand Summit Resort, where we've had it actually for many years. It's a location that really accommodates having up to 300 people, which is what we expect at the summit.
Okay. All right. And once again, that is Tuesday, May 20th. It starts at like 8:30 in the morning?
Yeah, so our first speaker will kick off right at 9. So we encourage people to arrive by 8:30, check in, have some breakfast, see who's there. It's a great crowd. The summit program begins at 9 and really runs throughout the day. I will say, do plan to come for the whole day if you can, because we have a staff from our federal delegation coming at 4 o'clock to give a little update on the work that's happening with our federal delegation in Washington, and they can answer some questions people might have. So we really have content throughout the day for people.
All right. So give us the overall, like, the speaker. We had a chance to talk before we turned the cameras on, and we were talking specifically about 2020. And the speaker that was supposed to speak there is now 5 years later. Finally got him rebooked. Tell us about that speaker and what we can expect.
Yeah, we're really happy to welcome Josh Wright. So Josh Wright works for Lightcast, which is a global data workforce analytics company. If that sounds really dry, it actually is not. They've just released a really big report about demographic trends in the workforce nationally. And this is really interesting because it's something we've kind of been on the vanguard of experiencing this demographic shift in Vermont. And so our employers have already started working on what does this look like? What does the workforce of the future look like? And that's really what we're going to talk about, is that what we see happening is not our imagination. It's based on data. We're shifting of who is available to work. If people are saying, I can't hire people, I need workforce, that's real and it's backed up by data. We're going to really be able to explore how we're solving some of those problems in Vermont. So interestingly, 5 years ago, we were just about to really begin a big push for bringing immigration and supporting new Americans to move to Vermont. So we've really been ahead of the game on looking at how do we increase our population, support our population that's here, and how do we bring more people to our area. So Josh is really going to talk about what this looks like on a national level. And then we are going to bring in local panelists working in construction, healthcare, and education, who are really at the crosshairs of demographic shifts. So they can talk about what are they doing to create the workforce that they need and support the workers that they have.
Right. Well, in 2020, as we know, things were just this sort of kind of puttering along, and we had a little bit of difficulty trying to find people to join into the workforce. And I think as we were coming out of the pandemic, that landscape changed vastly and quickly, and not necessarily in a positive way. So to have some data behind that, does this data drill into those kind of scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just based on how our population makeup is changing across the country. Mm-hmm. And as we experience a huge generational shift in our workforce, right? We see the baby boom generation retiring. We have new people coming in, but it's not as big a workforce. And so the way we have to approach hiring, supporting workforce has really changed. And so that's what we're looking at, is that we may have to do more with less. And how do we do that? And how do different industries react to that? And we've been working. So I will say the summit is planned by myself and all my brilliant colleagues at BDCC and Bennington County Regional Commission. So there's a lot of people that have been working on these workforce issues locally, regionally. Mm-hmm. And this is a chance to kind of bring that all together and look at it in a broader brush, so where we're also looking at other community issues and things like that at the summit.
So you bring up the Bennington Regional Commission, who has, I think, always been a part of this as well, as part of representing Southern Vermont, and you're dealing into this. So our dealings with employment and things like that might be a little different than, say, Burlington, which isn't as, like Burlington's like a younger city. We're sort of an older population. Are you finding that those differences exist?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what's great about this summit is that it's really for us, right? This is a regional summit where people are here to talk about what is affecting Southern Vermont and how we work together. So that's why I say if you may go to conferences in Burlington, Montpelier, Washington, D.C. If you go to one economic development type conference a year, I urge people come to the Southern Vermont Economy Summit because it's by us, it's for us, it's about us. And so the conversations that happen will give us that context, national, regional, statewide, but the solutions that we seek are really through building those networks and looking at what solutions will work specifically for our communities and the reality that we're experiencing here in Southern Vermont.
Okay, great. So I couldn't help but notice you have a little executive summary there in front of you. Can you run that down for us real quick?
Sure. So the tracks of this year's summit are structured around our comprehensive economic development strategy, which we just say SEDS, because that's a huge mouthful. Mm-hmm. So the SEDS is a document that's regionally prepared. We work with our partners across Southern Vermont. And there's 4 main objectives to that. One is about addressing critical population needs. So do we have the people we need and are we supporting them? The next one is empowering businesses to thrive long term. So that's not just working with startups. That's not just working with growth. That's not just working with succession. It's about helping businesses maintain and thrive. The third objective is around fostering resilient and adaptable communities. And so that's on so many levels. Resilience is social, resilience is political, resilience is related to climate, things like that, infrastructure. So we think about resilient, adaptable communities as a bedrock of our local economy. And then finally, promoting regional economic development alignment, which is really what the SEDS the summit it's kind of, I call it the embodiment of the SEDS, where we get people together so we can look at all these issues, find our place, find our partners, and do the work that needs to be done.
Okay, great. Meg, anything else that we might be leaving out of this that you might want to make sure that people know this is going to happen? It's worth showing up. Like one thing we haven't. How do you get registered to come to this thing?
Sure. Absolutely. So you can register at the So Vermont Zone website, which is the website that houses all our regional economic development work. You could also get to it through brattleborodevelopment.com. There's an event link there. But sovermontzone.com has a link with the day's agenda. It has a link to register. We love pre-registration, just because it helps us know how many people to expect. Yeah. So you can pre-register through about noon on Monday, the day before.
Okay.
If you still want to come and you didn't register, that's okay. You can just show up at the door and we'll help you get registered. So we encourage pre-registration, but you can also just come.
All right. We've been speaking with Meg Staloff, who is the program manager for the Southern Vermont Economic Project, and we are talking about the Southern Vermont Economy Summit, and that will take place at the Mount Snow Grand Summit Tuesday, May 20th. Get there around 8:30, kicks off at 9.
Correct.
All right.
Look forward to seeing everyone there.
Thanks for jumping on and kind of giving us a quick deep dive into this.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. And I encourage people to come to the summit. It's a wonderful event. Really great.
Thanks.